Just intensity. I think I tell y'all it really starts, with our defensive intensity focus. I didn't feel like we had it, at least for the first quarter. I think second quarter we had it in spurts, and then obviously second half we did what we were supposed to. And not every game is going to be perfect. Not every game you're going to come out and start the right way, but it's just how do you continue to bounce back and respond. And as a collective, we were able to do that, and we did a pretty solid job on the boards, which I'm really happy about. That's been my focal point for the group, just being able to be a physical, get on the boards and find different things, and then obviously being in the gaps and trying to be physical on the ball and different things. So we figured it out in the second half and, did our job.
Isaac was talking the other day about trying to settle into a role and on this kind of team. His minutes may be different, his touches may be different, like all those different things. When he has a game like he did tonight, especially in the second half, like what does that make you think about what you can get from Isaac in the playoffs?
Isaac's a guy, man, since I've been here, he's consistently, progressing. I think when I first got here, I only knew him as a defender, not a shooter. I think we all can say that. And he was, like I told y'all, he was always beating me to the gym, continuously shooting, trying to work on his shot. You see what he did last year. And then this year he's working on his half roll. Obviously defensively he is who he is, but being able to play in certain spots, being able to push the break, getting out in transition, doing little things, making it tough. That's what we need, and he's continuing to progress for us every single night. And like a night like tonight, man, it really just shows what he can bring for us. And I get on him because I'm like, man, you're number 2 in screen index. Don't know what the hell that means, but you're number 2. So I tell him, like, just keep doing that great job of that. And we know he's always in there playing the pocket, and he's confident in that. That's a skill. Be able to get in the half roll, make plays, and not have to panic. You know what I mean? I think that's something that we really trust him with. And it's great to see on nights like tonight. Even when he was 1 of 6 from 3, he's still finding ways to impact the game in a positive way.
I showed him that stat the other day.
You did? I saw it. I made sure. I was like, hey, set some screens then, goddamn. Yeah.
Dan, Kenny talked about some of the little things that you've been doing, the rebounding, the physicality, stuff like
Mhm.
this. Is that one of the ways you can leadership is by doing those small things?
Yeah, I think that's, really especially after the little stretch I went on where things weren't so great, just trying to find ways to impact, the game like I've been telling y'all. Being like second half I think was really different for me, and even the second quarter, picking up at the end of the first, was it when I picking up Delon Wright, like trying to make that a point. I'm not saying you're to guard a guy 94 feet, but just trying to create, havoc in some way, shape, or form, getting on the boards. My goal, I set a goal for myself for rebounds per game. I'm not going to tell y'all what it is, but just trying to find ways to continue to help out the bigs on the glass, in the passing lane, disrupting stuff like that, finding guys when they're open. That's really what it is. The scoring is going to be the scoring. Some nights tonight's 27, some nights it's 20, some nights it's 40, whatever it's called for. But how am I impacting winning? And that's been pretty much my mentality.
How did the second half went tonight, maybe the final 28 minutes, how you expected things to go for you guys after having a couple of days off for the first time in a while?
Yeah, I think they give them credit, especially OG came out firing, really comfortable. But the biggest thing, like I always say, that's never going to be perfect. You would think, yeah, we have rest, we're going to be, guns blazing, from the jump. It's not the case. How do you respond to that? And I think the second half is just who we are, and nothing really to worry about, not to hang our head. When we were down 15, no one really looked nervous or panicked. It's just like, all right, let's get back to what we do and figure it out.
Donovan, obviously, you're a finalist for that Teammate of the Year award. So I just wanted to ask you kind of what your approach has been like this season. And I know you've been a big-time leader throughout, but what have you done differently or extra or whatever this season?
I think the biggest thing, especially when I was talking to Kenny when he first got the job, was empowerment. I feel like I've always been pretty good at it, but I think there's another layer to it. And the one thing everybody talks about, and I've heard for so many years, is everybody talks about sacrifice. Everybody says you got to sacrifice until it's your turn. You know what I mean? And are you willing to do that for the greater good of the group? That's the ultimate test, to me. And yeah, it was different. I'm not going to say at first I'm like, man, I'm coming out in 4 minutes. All right, the touches are down. Like, you're doing something for 7 years and you have success as an individual with it. It's natural to kind of, try to figure things out. But one, it helped we were winning. So, like, clearly I'm doing something right. But also it's just like, you look yourself in the mirror and like, okay, how do we get the most out of Evan? DG getting back to form, getting Ty Jerome, Sam Merrill, Isaac Dean. Like, what does that look like? Like I said, I'm going to do that, but how, for me, am I impacting the game at the highest level? How am I in huddles, keeping everybody calm? Sometimes it's just shutting up and, letting it just play out. Sometimes it's, before a big game, hey, take care of your body tonight. Like, whatever the situation calls for. And I'm also grateful my teammates allow me to do that. Allow me to, be that guy because, it can be different in NBA locker rooms. Some guys may not just be receptive to it, but they allow me to be that guy. And, I'm not who I am without them. And I'm just continuing to find ways to impact. And like I said, it's obviously statistically, this is a down year, if you want to call it that, but this has been the best season as a group for me, and that's really what matters is winning.
When you set goals, where do you write them in your phone? Where do you
Yeah, in my phone.
then how often do you take a look at it?
I think probably every 25 games or so. I think it's very interesting to me how for years I always thought you just score. I'm not gonna lie, like I've seen it in my play at times, especially early in my career. That's all I knew, and this was all new to me. Like I didn't expect to be Donovan Mitchell. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, but okay, now how do you take another step? Cool. What does that look like? And for the first time in my career, yeah, I'm in the conversation for MVP. But it's just a different approach. It's a different view on certain things, and that's ultimately what a leader and what a guy like myself should do, finding ways to impact winning, and that's, like I said, it was different at first, but now that's the goal. How do I continue to, help the team? Because when you help the team and when we win, everything else just kind of falls into place.
If you get the Jarrett Allen that you've been getting lately in the playoffs, what would that do for this team?
We can do a lot. We can obviously win a championship, and I have no doubt that that's who he will be. It won't be no 3 and 4s. Obviously, the intensity level of the playoffs, there were no back-to-backs, and like I made the joke about, I'd be telling him, hey, sit down for like a game or so. He just won't do it. You know what I mean? And to his credit, I respect that because it takes a lot, and it takes a lot on your body. So there's some nights where it's just, yeah, he's tired, man. Like, you know what I mean? Because he's out there fighting. So I have no doubt, especially with the way we have the week off, the playoff schedule, all those different things, he'll be ready to go on a consistent basis. Not to say he hasn't, but, obviously there are nights where he's just tired, man. I mean, he's battling for us, you know what I mean? And then nights like tonight and the night the way he has been playing, it's just phenomenal. I'm happy to see it, and we all know he's going to be there for us for sure.
I know he brings a lot more to the table than just this, but in the context of being a help defender, how advantageous is it to have Evan?
Man, especially like in a night like tonight, where Jay has got catch on the drive, and now it's like Evans coming over. You know what I mean? It's not just 1 7-footer, it's 2, and then we're scrambling on the backside. When you have a guy that can protect the rim, can be a help side defender, can guard isolations, guard pick and roll, that's what makes him the defensive player of the year. He's able to do so much beating the gaps. There was one time I got on him. I think Cat drove right. It's like, Ev, go. Like, you know what I mean? And it's tough. It's tough on Ev. And it's funny because, like, you expect that out of him because he does it all the time. So when he doesn't do it, it's like, what the hell? You know what I mean? I was wrong. It wasn't his fault. But, like, that's the expectation because he's been so elite at being that help guy. So credit to him. And he's continuing to challenge himself on a nightly basis on both ends of the floor.
And Jay kind of mentioned they haven't been playing too much big ball this year because of all the different concepts that Kenny's put in there. But when you have that to go to, and he also mentioned the spike ball game this morning, apparently, like just having that in the back pocket too to be able to go to another option.
Yeah, that's the best part about. I said this at the beginning of the year, having the same group. There's things that are new this year that we're seeing, and there's also things that we never forget. We can hang our hat on. Whether it's like you said, the big is you saw it a lot last year. You know what I mean? You saw it a lot of times. So now it's like, when we get in those situations, they're very comfortable playing in those situations, playing off each other in that way. So it's great, and that's just chemistry built over time. And I think credit to them too, because not many big combos are selfless enough to kind of play off each other in that, and that's very understated for how well they've been able to do that since I've been here and even before I got here.
In the pregame, there was a lot of talk about Johnny Bryant from Kenny from Tibbs, but it reminded me of a couple years ago when they eliminated you. You were up here and talked about how a lot of what they threw at you thought was Johnny. So now that you're reunited here, I mean, how has he sort of helped you take your game even to another level, maybe? And has that reunion been everything?
Yeah, well, first of all, he doesn't let me hear the end of it. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I talk about the conversations Kenny and I have had, as far as switching up my role. But, I got to give Johnny a lot of credit in that, too. He was pretty much the first person to kind of bring it to me because, as a head coach, you delegate to the coach and other coaches and whatnot. So he was like, hey, this is what it's going to look like. You know what I mean? And it wasn't really a question. It was no. I'm saying what he was telling me. It wasn't really like, hey, are you cool? Like, that's just the relationship we have. It's more like, hey, this is what it's going to be, and this is what's going to help, take us to the next level. And I trust that. I trust that guy with everything, man. That's more than just a coach. That's a brother. That's family. That's somebody that I trust with just life, let alone just basketball. It's the same guy today said, hey, you gonna take your cool pants off today? You gonna play basketball? Or what are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like he holds me like he holds me accountable to the point my teammates think he's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? But like that's what you want in a not only a brother but also like a coach. And you've seen the impact he's had not just on myself but with a lot of guys. He knows what he's doing. We've built obviously a great relationship, and I'm very grateful for him. He'll be a head coach very soon, so won't be here for that long, But like he means the world to me and to this group, and it's definitely a blessing to have him on our side for sure.
Along the lines of that trust, Kenny mentioned, like sometimes Johnny can yell at you in a way that Kenny feels like he can't, no one else can. I guess, do you have any particular funny story or favorite story of him getting after you for something and like it actually worked?
It typically works every time. I be telling Kenny he can scream at me. I be telling him like, hey, like the way I heard you were in Brooklyn, it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? You can go ahead and snap at me. I'm not tripping, but there's so many Johnny stories, man. I think the first one that kind of caught everybody's eye here, we were in Washington this year. We played somebody first and then played them on a back-to-back, and I was just going through the motions, trying to figure things out. And he let me have it, but in a way that I was like, this is normal. Everybody looked at me like, the hell's going on? Like, how's he, you know what I mean? And that in that second half, I had like 30 points. So I think that kind of worked, and we won the game. There are times during the game where I hear him cuss me out, and my teammates be like, bro, he's tripping. I'm like, no, this is just Thursday. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a regular day. Like, I appreciate that. I thrive off that. Like, and I really thrive off, coaching in that regard. I don't like being coddled. I don't like being, having my butt kissed. It's like, no, like, this is what I should be doing. This is it. He won't come in there and tell me a good game. Be like, yeah, like this is what you get paid to do. This is what you should do. And I prefer that over anything else. And then when you're going through it, he's like, hey, like, this, and this. But if you ask my teammates, I promise you they have a lot of stories that they find crazy. This is pretty much normal to me. I mean, I play for Rick Pitino, so thus I'm not running on a treadmill. You know what I mean? So I'm good.
Going off of you talking about how you had a little bit of a different role this season, I don't know if refreshing is the right word, but do you feel like you have a bit of a different perspective on the game being in this role now, where it's less about you focusing on scoring and more about how can I empower other people?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's nice to be able to see a lot of guys take steps too, and be able to see, especially Evan. Like, you know what I mean? Seeing Evan, take a step where I saw myself early on in my career being more aggressive, being more assertive. I'm kind of the role of the vets that I had. I'm the Joe Ingles, the Ricky Rubio, the Epe Udoh. Like, makes me feel old for starters, but like it's nice to be able to see that and have a different viewpoint on things, and understanding that there's just so many layers to the game. I think that's something that is obviously rewarding from the season that we've had, but ultimately, we haven't even scratched the surface of what we can be. This has been a phenomenal year for us, and for me, just continue to be, like I said, that positive light, and also hold guys accountable, but also allowing guys to do their thing. It's really nice to see how everybody's continuing to take a step, and I'm not taking all the credit for it, because at the end of the day, guys got to put in the work themselves, and they have. I'm just happy to just help continue to help winning.
Okay, we'll wrap it down.
Thanks, Donovan.
Thank you.